everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Evidence, the podcast where we dive deep into true crime cases, uncovering the facts and exploring the unanswered questions that keep us coming back for more. I'm your host, Marv, and I want to thank you for joining me today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can find links to my PayPal and Cash App in the description. Now, let's get into today's topic.
Breaking all the patterns, facts and theories, clues and controversy. Join the journey, uncovering the mystery. This is Beyond the Evidence, where justice prevails, with Marv leading the way. Truth never fails. Now get ready for this live stream. Super chat, highlight your message. Don't fall victim to the irrelevance. Hit that, like, share, subscribe to Marv's Beyond the Evidence.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome back to Beyond the Evidence. So glad to see those of you that are here. I'm looking at the comments showing up on the screen now, and I see that Andrea said Nightbot wasn't working, and then all of a sudden it started working. So it's just gonna go when it wants to go. But welcome in, everybody. I wanted to do a more comprehensive overview of the Travis Decker manhunt and what happened in that situation. You know, this isn't an easy story to tell. They never are. But it's one that we have to approach with care and compassion. Tonight, we're going to talk about the life and actions of Travis Decker, a man who is wanted for an unimaginable crime of taking the lives of his three precious daughters, Paityn, Evelyn, and Olivia. So tonight we're going to reflect on how this tragedy unfolded and how these girls are being remembered by their mother and community. Our goal tonight is not just to report, but to pause, reflect, and advocate for families caught in these cycles of trauma. But most importantly, honor these children's legacy of love and emotional openness. So, welcome. I have a little bug here. Hang on. Let me see if I can get rid of it. So let's talk about Travis Decker's early life and what that entailed. He was born on August 15, 1992 in Pewaukee, Wisconsin, my home state. And if you didn't know, Pewaukee is a suburb near Milwaukee. He's described as an athlete and kind teenager. He graduated from Pewaukee High School in 2010, where he played varsity football and competed in the state wrestling finals. So, after getting out of high school, he wanted to follow in his father's footsteps. His father, Troy, was a Green Beret. So Travis enlisted in the U.S. Army in March of 2013 as an infantryman, and he was deployed to Afghanistan in 2014 and later served with the 503rd Infantry Regiment of the 173rd Airborne Brigade in Italy. In 2021, he joined the Washington National Guard also. So, what other things do we know about him? Well, he's known for his wilderness survival skills. He has reportedly lived off the grid for up to 2 months at a time in the past. Friends and former service members described him as quiet, hardworking, competitive, yet in the years that followed, those same people would express shock and heartbreak at his alleged actions. So let's take a moment to reflect. How can a person with a promising start in life turn so dark? Do you believe communities and systems could do more to support veterans and their families? Let me know in the chat. I want to have a discussion with everybody tonight about this. And like I said, I don't want to just go over the facts of the case. I want to stop and pause and reflect. You know, we know that he was in the military and that he had issues getting out of the military. Do you think that early intervention for mental health with veterans might prevent tragedies like this in the future? I do. What do you all think? No comments yet on those questions. But there's a little delay between me recording and what you're seeing. So let's go on and we'll come back to those questions. So after leaving active duty, Travis settled in Wenatchee, Washington, with his wife Whitney and their 3 daughters. The couple had married in 2012, shortly after his deployment, and they divorced in November of 2022. Post-service life brought many struggles. Travis was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and PTSD, leading to bouts of paranoia, insomnia, and erratic behavior. Karen says he definitely needed help. Yes. Knowing that he had paranoia, insomnia, and erratic behavior, along with PTSD and a borderline personality disorder, and what happened tells me that he definitely did not get the help he needed. He often lived in RVs, motels, or his truck after his trailer was repossessed. So you have a veteran that is in service and comes back. He has PTSD. He loses the place that he lives, or he lived, and he's bouncing from place to place to place to place. Whitney described efforts to co-parent amid increasing concerns about Travis's mental health and unstable housing. Despite these challenges, she allowed her daughters to maintain a relationship with their father under a court-ordered visitation. Now, Whitney, the wife, faced an impossible situation. She wanted to balance her children's need to be with their father and to have a relationship with their father, and knowing that there was concerns for their safety. How should courts navigate cases like this? Karen says he should have had supervised visits. Yeah. Andrea says some people with mental disorders don't realize they have them till it's too late sometimes. And that's true. So initially, after the divorce, Travis was granted every other weekend visits. But in September 2024, Whitney's legal team petitioned for modifications, citing mental instability and potential neglect. So the court's response to this was revoking overnight visits and setting strict limits. He was allowed to have the girls on Fridays from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., on Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and on Sundays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Travis was ordered to undergo anger management and a psychiatric evaluation and maintain stable housing in the city that he was in. In court, Travis insisted their camping trips were safe, saying, "We've never done anything unsafe." Yet Whitney's attorneys recounted that the girls were sometimes sleeping in an armory and were exposed to unstable conditions. So my next question on stopping and reflecting with you all is this: how do we hold the systems accountable when they try to balance parental rights with child safety and when tragedies still happen? Anybody have a response to that? Because this is not the first story we've heard of where the courts were involved or DCFS was involved. You know, we've got tons and tons of stories of children being moved around, actually not moved around, but having both parents involved. One has an issue, maybe both have an issue, maybe one does and the other doesn't. And his safe may have been all the weapons around due to his PTSD. Yep, I agree. So do you think the court should have completely suspended Travis's visitation during this time? That's my next question to all of you. Yes, because the risk was too high. No, because he deserved supervised visits. Or are you unsure because it's a complex issue? I think he should have had supervised visitation, but that means at a facility during those hours where he couldn't leave with the children and still got to spend time with them. So you think he should never have had them at all? No contact with them. Should have had supervised visits. Yep, absolutely. Even if he had supervised visits, he could still have snapped and unalived more than just true. Can't believe this guy is still on the loose. Yeah. So on May 30th, 2025, he picked up his daughters for his scheduled visit, but failed to return them by 8 p.m. Whitney reported them missing that evening. On June 2nd, 2025, authorities discovered his abandoned GMC Sierra at Rock Island Campground. Inside were his wallet, his phone, his dog, and there was a bloody handprint matching his DNA. Okay. Nearby, the bodies of Paityn, Evelyn, and Olivia were found. I'm not going to go through the gruesome details of what happened to these girls, but we all know that their last moments alive were in terror. And the one thing that probably frightened them the most is that this was the one of the people in their lives that they were supposed to be able to trust and not worry about. Evidence has pointed to premeditation. There were Google searches in the days prior that included how to move to Canada. So we're going to stop and reflect here for a moment. What can we do as a society to recognize warning signs earlier before they escalate into the unimaginable harm? I mean, what more could have been done? The courts were involved. If Whitney had withheld them from him, she would have gotten in trouble. Now, she could have gone back and filed an emergency hearing trying to cut off any visitation with them, but she didn't. What I'd like to know is, what was his actions and thought process like the days before, hours before? They said there's premeditation, that he had looked up how to go to Canada, but that doesn't mean that to me, that doesn't say that he's going to unalive his girls and then run to Canada. Now, if there was other Google searches with it they're not telling us about, then that could explain more. Yes, the warning signs were already there with his condition. I agree, 100%. Stop and think about this. Nowadays, you can have a protective order, and the cops will tell you that the person has to be hurt before they arrest the non-protected one. Exactly. So, do we, as members of the society, encourage courts to do more to cut off the rights of a parent, in this case, that has these flags? Do we as a society encourage them to do so that these children are not unalived by a parent or a loved one? Because this is happening way too much. So there's got to be some answers, and we can't just say, well, it's the court's fault. It's, DCFS's fault. We have to take, in my opinion, we have to take some initiative to help stop this. We can't let things keep going as the status quo of how they have been going and stop this from happening in the future. Need to have the protective order conditions changed. That's a start. Think the courts failed. Yep. But how do we as a society get the courts to stop failing? How do we make them, as a society, how do we make them realize that things have changed so much over the years that they need to start cutting parents' rights until that individual can do what they need to do and get healthier in order to spend time with their children? How do we do that? Because right now, this man is wanted for 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of kidnapping. And he is considered armed and dangerous and highly capable of living off-grid due to his background. His daughters were so cute. Yes. But at the same time, he did not get the help that he needed. How do we get these people the help so that things like this don't happen in the future? We know that a $20,000 reward has been offered for information leading to his arrest. Authorities have launched an extensive manhunt across the Washington Cascade Mountains. They've searched Idaho now. Last night, Gibbo and I did a live together giving an update. And just hours after that, reports came out that they actually contacted the individual that was seen, and it was not Travis Decker. So it sounds to me like they're doing everything they can to find him. But when we look at the manhunt, should more resources go toward prevention rather than just response? I do. Because if we had worked towards prevention and getting him the help that he needed, 3 little girls would have never lost their life. They would still be here to this day. Do you think our system prioritizes the right things when dealing with high risk individuals? I don't. When I stop and I reflect on that, no, they don't. Their big thing is each parent has rights and can't stop a parent from seeing their kid. Why not? Why can't you? As a judge in our courts, why can't you stop and make the decision that this man was clearly not in the right mind? And for a time period, his rights should have been stopped to see those children in order to protect them. And made sure that he got the care that he needed. They mandated him to anger management and psychiatric evaluations. Were those done? Were they completed? Did they have all the information they needed to make a logical decision? And if you want somebody to have a psychiatric evaluation or multiple, why are you letting the children go to that person? Why are you letting them go with him? These are the questions that we have to start asking as a society and demanding answers and demanding change. It's the only way we are going to stop this. You know, the most important thing about this is that we can talk about these stories one after another, after another, after another. And unfortunately, the focus is on the person that has done it, that has committed the crime. And we need to remember those 3 innocent lives that were lost. Because Paityn, Evelyn, and Olivia, they were vibrant, emotionally aware, and deeply bonded to their mother. And they loved and trusted their father. They loved soccer, dance, and theater. Their mom described them as affectionate and emotionally mature, noting their nightly feelings check ins that helped foster kindness and empathy. Hang on, I have to message my kid and tell him that I'm doing a live. And just make sure everything's okay. Okay. So on June 20th, a public memorial drew over 800 people. And all the attendees wore purple, pink, and green and lit candles in honor of these 3 girls' memories. Their mother, who lost all 3 of her children, was there and described them as incredible and said that she hoped their legacy lives on in everyone's hearts forever. That's huge. Think about it. We're all, those of us that are parents, those of us that aren't parents but have nieces, nephews that are like our own kids, if something like this happened to you, how would you handle it? Because this woman, in my view, has been so strong, yet you know that she is completely gutted and torn apart because she lost the most precious thing in the world to her, which is all three of her daughters. If you know the system, then you can get around a psych eval and totally fool who's giving the evaluation. So, how do we fix it? How do we make it to where you can't? That's my question to everybody out there in the world. How do you fix it? That's so sad. I can't imagine. I can't either. I absolutely can't. Hi, Anthony. How are you? Now, some of the things that I found out and I specifically asked was, and I'm just making some of this bigger in my notes so that I can read everything because it's tiny. Okay. So if he was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and persistent PTSD, what were they doing to help him with those issues? What did they do? And why didn't the VA help him with housing? Was he not aware that they could? It doesn't say if he was on medication or anything like that. All it says is that his mental health continued to decline, that his brother noted violent reactions and concern, and that they cut contact with him. So it says, despite seeking help via the VA and crisis lines, he did not successfully complete required anger management or psychiatric treatment, which influenced the legal custody restrictions. So my next question is, okay, when the judge said he's mandating these things, they usually give a date that they have to complete it by. What was that date? Why didn't the judge take his rights away once that date passed? And he hadn't completed anything. It was so bad that he actually began reducing participation in the National Guard, in his National Guard duties, about a year before the incident. He was separating himself from the service. But that was his life. But that's also what damaged him. So police believe that he is likely hiding out in rugged wilderness terrain, possibly along the Pacific Crest Trail. And once again, he's considered armed and dangerous. But as I thought about this all day last night and most of the day today, I wonder, now these individuals have periods where they're not lucid, he's having paranoia and all of that. Okay? So let's say that happened. He was in that state when he got the kids. He did what he did and he became lucid. And he saw what he did. We all know that if you were in the military, most of the time, military men, after they get out, still carry guns. So, did he have that moment of clarity of what he did and couldn't handle it and walked away and took himself out? There's a really good chance he did. But because he's a survivalist and he knows how to live in the woods and he knows how to thrive in that terrain in those areas, we don't know for sure. Until he's found, we won't know whether he is alive or deceased. And yeah, I agree with you. He could have. So, similar to the man that killed his whole family and burnt the home down and went on the run, found his truck and dog, no sign of him. Yeah. Keaton, what is your problem? We are here to constructively discuss things, not attack one another, not call each other names. Andrea made a point. It's how she feels. If you know the system, then you can get around a psych eval and totally fool who's giving the evaluation. And your response was to come back and call her a name. Belittle her. That's what's wrong with the world today, folks. That's exactly what's wrong. Where is your empathy? Where is the compassion? Where is the moment to stop and reflect and try to understand somebody else's point of view and not just worry about what you think and how the fact that you're sitting behind a keyboard makes it all right to do something like this to someone? Trying to make yourself feel better because your life isn't perfect? What if it was a case of, if I can't have them, either can you? What if he wasn't in psychotic break and this was jealousy? Absolutely could have been. We don't know until we find him. If he's alive, then maybe we can get some answers. But like a lot of these cases, we never find out. Oh, Stephanie, I'm gonna talk about all that on Monday. I'm gonna talk about all that on Monday. Get ready. Let everybody know Marv's going on a rant on Monday. Let's see here. Oh, so I did find out that Whitney and the court cited Travis's unstable housing, mental health concerns, and refusal to complete the anger management and psychiatric evaluations as key reasons for restricting his time and trying to supervise his visits. And what the court decided was, well, we're just not going to have him let him have any overnights. Whitney raised concerns about his PTSD, his borderline personality disorder, the fact that he was having paranoia, he wasn't sleeping, and had erratic behavior, such as screaming at night and just disappearing. Goodbye, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Let's see here. So during the court hearing, you can get access to some of the transcripts from that hearing. The judge actually told him whether it's an RV, a tent, an Airbnb, that's not stability for these children. The court flagged Decker's transient living conditions as a concern. And his response was, every time I've had the girls, we've been in campsites and national forest. We've never done anything unsafe. I already only get a day and a half. If I have the opportunity to be there for my daughters, I feel I should be able to be there for them. Whitney's attorney said, they're sleeping in the armory among strange men. He's homeless and living in his truck. So, under Washington law, shared parenting is the default unless there's clear evidence of danger. Well, if he was acting erratically, wouldn't that be danger? Well, there was no prior police reports, restraining orders, or documented violence at the time of the review. So, to balance safety, visitation was scheduled in 3-day blocks with no overnight stays. And we know what he was mandated to: anger management and psychotic evaluations. And he was ordered to maintain stable housing in the area during visitation periods. And then after that, Whitney was authorized to request additional restrictions if Decker failed to comply. And the court remained open to revisiting the visitation agreement if evaluations weren't completed or additional concerns surfaced. But that wasn't everything that they knew wasn't enough to stop the visitations. That's crazy. Like I said, the courts were more, what is the word I'm thinking of? The courts, their primary focus was to make sure that there was a balanced parental access, ignoring safety concerns in line with the legal standards. So, when I asked you guys before, what do we do about this? We have to ask that these laws be changed. These standards must get changed. They have to. Otherwise, we're going to continue losing children. So, what happens? Well, these gaps coincided with the disappearance of these 3 beautiful children, these little girls. And we know that their lives were taken away from them. And just so you know, the court transcripts that I got, they were excerpts from court audio released via people.com and local coverage. How do we get these courts to stop favoring maintaining parent-child relationships when there's mental illness in a severe case like this? How do we do it? Because until we start changing these laws and we start changing the court's focus, we're going to continue to lose children on a daily basis, just like this case. And we've all seen how many children have been lost already. So, how many more have to die before something gets done? We sound like a broken record, you guys. We absolutely sound like a broken record. How many more school shootings have to happen before something's done? How many more children have to die at the hands of their parents or guardians before the laws get changed, standards get changed, the judges make better decisions in these cases? What do we got to do? Instead, it's a vicious cycle that keeps going round and round and round. So, in summary, in the closing of the live tonight, we are going to focus on Paityn, Evelyn, and Olivia Decker. They were three vibrant, loving sisters who shared a special bond with their mother and their community. Their tragic deaths have deeply impacted Wenatchee and beyond. Their mother will continue to honor their memory through emotional tributes and advocacy around mental health awareness, especially for veterans and families facing custody challenges. Some of the comments that individuals have made regarding these three beautiful little girls. They were the kind of children that everyone rooted for, looked forward to seeing, and held close in their hearts. They are cherished not just by the family, but by our entire community who watched them grow, perform, learn, and love. Another individual said, "My thoughts and prayers are with you, Whitney, and family. My heart breaks for you, Mama. May Paityn, Evelyn, and Olivia fly high in the arms of our Lord." Another individual said, "No words can fully express the sorrow we feel, and we stand with all those who are mourning." Their mom, Whitney, shared how they practiced nightly emotional check ins, a bedtime tradition called the Three Feelings that helped the girls express themselves and connect deeply. When the world slowed down, it gave me an inside look into their day. I believe doing this with them allowed them to come into the world with open hearts and kindness. How many parents do you know that do this with their children? Not many. I can tell you that. It's a small group. It's something that all of us can learn. These girls were kind, caring, emotionally aware, compassionate, and bright. Once again, they loved dance, soccer, theater, and regularly brought warmth and compliments to those around them. Paityn would tell her mother, "You look beautiful, Mom." Family and friends hope that out of tragedy, her daughter's message of emotional openness and kindness will spark broader change. These girls are remembered as uplifting, affectionate, and emotionally intelligent girls who brought joy and connection to those around them. And Whitney's words and the community tributes reflect a belief that their legacy, a focus on empathy and emotional expression, can continue to inspire kindness in others. That's how we want to remember this. These beautiful little girls, so young, so innocent, and in ways so much wiser than all of the adults in the world. So let's see here. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything else. So if you have any information regarding Travis Decker's whereabouts, contact the U.S. Marshals Service or your local authorities immediately. If this story touched you, consider sharing it to help raise awareness and prevent further tragedies. I want to say thank you for all of you who joined me in the chat tonight and for those who are going to be watching the replay. May Paityn, Evelyn, and Olivia rest in peace, and may their memory guide us toward compassion and justice. With that, I'm signing off for the night. Thank you once again for joining me. I will be out of town tomorrow through Sunday for a celebration of life for a family member that we have lost. So there will be no lives or shorts or anything like that. But as I said, Monday, we're going to talk about a lot of hard things that are going on around the world. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant. And I hope that you all join me so that we can have a discussion. Thank you and have a good night. Bye.